So you got a cool melody that you're singing around in your head. How do you work out chords to go with that melody? Let's take a look. So I think songwriting with melody first is a really powerful way of doing things. And it's often, I think, cited as a great way to write really cool songs, is to sing a melody that sounds cool and then come up with chords. But I also think it's one of the hardest things to do on the instrument in terms of a theory perspective. Harmonizing melody is a very advanced kind of theory tool. So I'm going to do some more videos on the theory and kind of analytical side of it too. So today's video is about trying to take melody ideas that you can already come up with and turn those into nice pieces of music, finding chords in what I consider to be the shortest way possible for you to learn to do so. Now, to do that, we use a combination, and I think anything in music is kind of the fastest, or in my opinion, the best way to do things, often leans on some oral skills, your ear, and some theory. So we'll look at what I think's the best combination for most people to be able to do this. I think if you're leaning too hard on either side, whether you're leaning too hard on the theory, you end up having to do lots and lots of work to figure things out often. And if you're leaning too hard on your ear, it can just be like lots and lots of fumbling. So we try and lean on both and work on both because they both help each other interchangeably. And normally the best way I find it is you use your ear as much as possible. And then when your ear gets stuck, your theory knowledge steps in to give you the options. That's how I think about everything to do with your music ability. Should be your kind of ear, and then whatever level your ear's at now, it's going to get better the more you play, the more you search for things on the guitar. And then the fretboard knowledge and your theory knowledge steps in to give you options when the ear is stuck or fatigued. And that just helps keep you moving and rolling the whole time. I think that's a good balance between the two. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to start with a melody. I'm going to sing one, and then I'll take you through the whole process of what I think is the important steps for taking a melody. So I'm going to sing a melody, and then I'm going to work it out on my guitar. That's step number one. So whatever the melody is, we need to work it out just on the instruments so that we can kind of have a good idea. And if you struggle with this, try singing things and then trying to find them on your guitar. That is basically step number one for you in terms of practice. So let's go ba da 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 da. All right. It's not setting the world on fire, but it is a melody, and I'm going to find it on the guitar. So da 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 da. I've got to find that first note. Da. Da, da, da. All right, cool. So I found it, and the way that I did that was I did a process of elimination. Da, da, and sometimes if you get stuck, you just want to sing like da, 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 until you find your note. So I found that it's an E. Da, 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 da. Cool, okay, so I found it. It's the pentatonic scale, basically, that I'm singing. I found that relatively quickly. That's because I've done this lots and lots of times. I sing and play on the guitar back and forth quite a lot, and the more you do that exercise, the easier you get it. But that's the first thing, trying to take your melody and find it on the guitar. That's the first thing I would do. So once you've got the melody, the next step is not to pick the chords. We actually don't care about the chords yet, even though that's what you came here for. The next step is to find the bass line that you want. So the bass line and the melody are more important than the chords. They are the two pillars of what happen in the harmony of your music. And so deciding once you've got a melody what's going to happen in the bass will dictate your choices for chords. It's going to help you so much. And also, you'll already have an idea of what the song's going to sound like. Having a bass line and a melody is like doing a sketch drawing of a picture before you start painting and putting all the colours in and really deciding on something. When you just jump in and start playing chords, it can work, just like if you just randomly start painting something, it can work too. But if you want to do a quick sketch drawing and get some nice ideas out, or a real feel for what it should sound like, melody and bass line make all the difference. So the question becomes, how do you write this bass line? Well, there's two main ways that I can see. You can play the melody and sing the bass line. That's one option. So, ba, I quite like that. Ba, 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 ba. slow, isn't it? Let's go up there. Again, I don't think that's the most inspiring thing you've ever heard in your life. But it's a bass line that kind of fits with it, and I've searched around for something. You don't have to be a singer to do this. You just have to have an intention in your head of what you're looking for. So let's find that. Oh, what do you know? I played something in E minor, and the note that I found happens to be E. It's the root note as my first one. And if at this point you're like, well, how am I going to remember all this stuff? Use your voice recorder on your phone. Once you work things out, voice recorder on the phone, or write down the notes of where you found so that you can kind of remember stuff. Don't try and do it all in your head. So I'm going to play these both together. You don't actually have to do that ever, but I could sing da 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 da. I'm not going to play them both together, so don't put that in. So I'm going to sing it and then try and play that bass line. Yeah, I think that's what it sounds. So okay, cool. I'm happy with the bass line. So now that we've got the melody and the bass line, and I'm going to write them down, and probably I'm going to write down what the notes are in front of me too. So I've used E, D, C sharp, C, and then my melody notes up here. I'll write those down too, which is E, D, B, A, G. Now, that first one, I'm going to start fitting in chords, and I could think of it in, let's explore what happens if I just make each of that bass line the root note of a chord progression. So I could put power chords there and see what happens. Da, 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 da. So that's just playing the root and the fifth on each of them. They sounded pretty good. I thought they sounded better than I expected, actually. The only one that sounded a little bit tense, I thought, was this C sharp. That one's a little bit tense, and let's talk about why. Well, I'm playing a C sharp and a G sharp, and my melody has an A and a G in it. So this bass note here, or in the chord, we're hearing this. That's a bit intense. So that chord I think we maybe need to come back to, but the other ones I was happy. That's E and B. D and A. That sounds great. This one we've talked about. And then that sounded fine, the C and the G. So maybe this one, what if I moved this note to be not a G sharp, but something in the chord, so I could move it up a fret. It's in my melody now. I've now got a C sharp and an A. That's actually going to sound like an A chord. Okay, so let's try that. So I'm going to go. So I've got E, D, there's a power chord, A, there's a power chord, C. Sounds cool. Okay, so that's in power chord version. So we've gone, just to recap, we've got melody, bass, power chords, and now if we want to put some triads in, or want to expand out and kind of test a bit further, again, we're going to lean either on our theory or on our ear here, and we can kind of check with both. So this first one here, if you're unsure, you're just going to check the two bar chords, whether it's major or minor. So, sounds like minor to me. So E minor. D, check whether it's major or minor. Sounds Sounds major to me, so D. D, sounds good. Now we have this chord here, which we put a C sharp and an A in. Now this is one where we might decide to keep it as just those two notes, and we can have more of those two notes. So for instance, I could add more of those two notes, and so C sharp's an A if I'm unsure. But if I figured out that that's actually an A chord, which you will do the more your fretboard theory goes and the more you're able to work out chords beyond the scope of this session, you'll be able to go, okay, that's an A chord. I could put an A chord in there, great. And then C. So now we're filling in those chords. And so I've got E minor, D, A, C major. So now that I've figured out those chords in that area, I can try all sorts of voicings of those chords. And I don't have to stick to the bass line as I originally stuck. I know those are the two pillars that we talked about. But now if we like those chords, we can move them to all sorts of voicings. So I could play them as open chords down here. I could play them in this area if I want. And actually what you're going to end up very quickly is not just good chords over that melody once that you've got, but often when you write music, you're going to repeat the same melody many times. And you might use, for the first verse, the chords up here as power chords. So as the second verse comes, or maybe even a chorus, you would move to a different voicing somewhere on the guitar because it gives you a different feeling. But you could use those same chords. So E minor, D, A, and C. So let's try it. Cool. So that's my process that I think works really well for leaning on both your ear training and on your fretboard knowledge. Now, if you're at this point, you're like, oh wow, well that just seems like it's a bit far on for me at this point. Don't worry. So what I do is just take the nearest point that you can do to add 5 minutes into your routine of playing a day to start heading in the right direction. So a good thing is just to try and sing a note. If you're right at the beginning of this, you sing a note or a couple of notes, and then you try and work them out on the guitar. And then if you can do that, then you take a melody and you start trying to write a bass line to go with that melody. That's really important. I think being able to write bass lines to go over melodies is the next key step. Then from there, you want to be able to do, okay, can I take this bass line and power chord it on the guitar? So turn it into a root and a fifth. Now, can I take power chords and turn those into triads? And now you've got chords. Then you're done. You've got a song with a melody and chords. So I think this is a harder way to do things than writing chords first and putting a melody on, but I think it's also a really cool way to get good sounding music is to write melody first. Thanks so much for watching. If you got something from today's session, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 1,500 subscribers at the moment, and I would love your help and joining us on our journey there. So I do videos every Thursday and Saturday, and so I will see you on the next one for some fretboard sessions. Thanks so much, guys. See you then. Bye.